Hi, and welcome to my workshop where we will explore different low-code tools and different processes that you can automate using them. My name is Lina Smetanenko. I'm a technical trainer at Creatio Academy, and basically what I do is train people how to use those low-code tools and what you can do with them. So let's get to our agenda. Today, we'll take a look at 4 different cases that we can automate using low-code tools. First, we'll start with the marketing one, where we will use a machine learning model to predict which products the customer is most likely interested in and will purchase next. Then we will move on to a sales case where we'll take a look at how we can improve an order section that we have in Creatio that's already comes with the product, and how we can use dynamic cases to streamline our order processing. Then we will go to customer feedback and how we can process that using queues in Service Creatio. And the last case that we will take a look at is an internal case focusing on basically onboarding process automation, because every company hires new employees and needs to streamline that process as well. After each section, we'll have a quick Q&A session. So you can send your questions into the chat and I will answer them during that quick session. Okay, so let's move on to the first case. The first case that we'll take a look at is the next best offer automation using Marketing Creatio, and it focuses on 2 things. First, predicting which is the next product that the customer is likely to purchase based on the historical data that we have in the system. And the second thing, we're going to automate that process of getting those offers to the customer, and that we will do using marketing campaigns. So without further ado, let's move on to the live demo. Okay, so I have pre-built a lot of things for this demonstration to show you, to make sure that I have enough time to show everything. So let me quickly show you where you can find your machine learning models. And they're located here in a system designer. And here is my model that I already trained based on some data that I have in the system. And what the machine model does, it uses the orders that we have, order data that we have by the customer that they placed already. And those completed orders, based on those orders that have been completed, we are predicting the probability of what product they might be interested in next. This model has been retrained and I'm ready to use it. To use a machine learning model, you need to have a business process, which I already have configured as well. I'm going to quickly show you how it looks like. Here it is. And basically what this process does is, first of all, it deletes previous recommendations. Then I also have one more field that basically lets me know whether the process ran through this record or it hasn't. So it checks and unchecks that box. And here's my machine learning model that is integrated into the business process. In a real life scenario, you probably want to use this you want this process to start on a timer, maybe once a week or maybe every day, depending how many orders you have, how many customers you're working with, and so on. But for the demonstration purposes, I'll be launching this process manually. So I'll pick a record of my in the client database, in the contact database, and basically launch it for a specific customer. So otherwise, again, in a real life scenario, you probably want to launch this automatically as well. Now, the next thing that we will do, and I'll show you how to do this, this is going to be our campaign that we will build that will help us automate those offers that go out via email to our customers. So let's go to the campaigns section and start building our campaign. I'm going to click new, give my campaign a name, recommended products, and save it. Now, Now I need to create my diagram, my campaign. And if you ever used Marketing Creatio, you will know that the campaign designer is one of those low-code tools that is very similar to the business process designer. It has different elements, but they work in a very similar way. You have elements, you have flows, you have your start, you have your finish, and so on. So first setting that I'm going to apply is the default frequency execution. I'm going to switch it to 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to execute my campaign within those 15 minutes. And now I can start building it. I will start my campaign. I will draw my audience to this campaign from a folder. I already configured a folder in the contact section that will have, where we will add basically our contacts that have those recommended offers generated for them. So only those contacts for whom the offers have been generated today will be part of this folder and will be added to the campaign. So let's give a name to this element, recommended offers generated, and pick this folder from the list. So the next thing I will do is my next step after I add the audience to the campaign. And you can, by the way, you can have multiple sources for your audience in the campaign. Today, to keep things simple, we'll only have one source. But once the audience is added, what do we want to happen next? Next, we want to send an email to those customers. And for that, we're going to use this element marketing email. We're going to connect it via flow. And I need to pick a trigger email. I already have my emails configured, so I've built it. I'll show you in the content designer how it looks like, what the customer will receive, and I'll show you that with the content designer for emails, you can really build complex emails. My email includes dynamic content based on the products that are recommended. So if specific products were recommended to the customer, they will see those products in the email. If the picked products by me in the dynamic content were not recommended, they will see some default content. So by designing only one email template, I technically created, I think, about more than 10 potential emails that a customer can receive, different customers can receive. So let's select it, recommended products. And I'm going to give a name to my element, recommended products. And then after the email is sent, what happens next? We need to think about the flow of this campaign. First, I'm going to build my happy path, so to speak, basically how I want the customer to proceed through the campaign and if they're doing everything that I want them to do. In this case, if they click on the right links in my email, I want to create a lead in my system so that then my lead department can contact the customers and basically offer them this product or something like that. So I'm going to use the element add data, and I'm going to call it create lead. I'm going to add object to the object lead. And I'm going to pre-populate some of these fields in that created record. So let's choose those fields. It's going to be account. It's going to be contact name. Let's do, which one do we want? Phone. Let's do mobile phone. We can also do email from the customer. And we want also our customer need. So when the lead is created, we know what the need was from that customer. And so now I can pre-populate those fields. So when the lead is created, those fields are populated automatically. So I'm going to use my macros is contact account, contact name here. Mobile phone will come from custom macro. And this is going to be mobile phone. Email, same thing from the custom macro. And then customer need, I'm going to preset it as a value. First, I'm going to do a lead for services because I have two types of products. Let's put it offers. In my email, I have services and I have products. So first I'm going to do products and then I'm going to do services. So, and we can differentiate this element actually and call it create a lead for product. Now, this flow that is connecting my email and my lead is going to be a conditional flow that based on my response from my participant, only those that fit this response will be transferred to this step. So I'm going to say if the email was clicked, and I'm going to specify which links in the email were clicked. So those offers that are buy now, get now, and order now, those are my links to products. Learn more are links to services. So I'm going to click select, mark this flow as clicked link for products. Again, trying to label everything so it's easier to read my diagram later on. And once the lead is created, I'm going to basically say, this is the end of my campaign. Whichever customer clicked on the link, the lead got created, then they reached the goal. You can build much complicated campaigns. You can have a lot, you can say that only after they order the product, then we're considering them as reached goal. But for keeping things simple for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to speed this up a little bit for our customers. So I'm going to call it reached goal. And this is going to be my campaign goal. And I'm going to transfer it regardless of without any delay. So let's build a second path for those that clicked on services. And I'm going to click copy, paste basically this element, call it create lead for services, and change my customer need. Everything else is fine. And I'm going to connect it to my email and set up the condition for transferring as email clicked, learn more. Clicked link for products. Not for products, sorry, for services. We already have for products. And then once again, when the lead is created, they can exit the campaign. After that, after I have configured my happy flows, the next thing that I will do is consider the scenario. What if the customer did not click anything after 7 days? They opened the email, but they did not click anything, or they didn't even open it. Well, I'll put those customers in the folder not interested in our products, in recommended products, so I know who was interested, who wasn't, and I can try to analyze that data later on. So I'm going to create one more element. It's going to be add to not interested in our recommended products folder. And select this folder, contact in folder, and add data folder. And this is going to be my folder not interested. So here I'm going to set up execute after a specified period of time. So if the customer is stuck on this element, they're not clicking any of the links, then let's say after 7 days, we will not see how this is executed, but this makes sense, that they're transferred to here, and we can call it didn't click any links. And they can exit the campaign after that. So we are going to set up a folder to exit the campaign, and this is going to be our not interested in recommended products. So as you can see, it's quite easy to set up a campaign once you have figured out what you want to do. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how big your campaign is. So let's go ahead and click Save. Okay. Let the system save the changes. I'm not seeing this. Let's see. Let me refresh. Maybe it's saved. Maybe I'm getting a delay of some sorts. Okay, so my diagram did save. Perfect. Now, before starting the campaign, I will do a couple of things. I will go to my contact section, generate products for some of those contacts. So I have an audience that will be added. And after that, I will launch my campaign. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see right now, my folder is empty. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use my folder with contacts with completed orders. I'm going to use Alexander Wilson as an example, and I'm going to run the process for him. Now, I'll refresh the page to see the results of that process. And here are some of the products that the system picked for Alexander based on his previous purchasing experiences. So Microsoft Office, website development, and so on. So let's go ahead and launch the campaign and see what Alexander will receive. And I'll show you the template as well as a content designer while we wait to receive this email. Alexander has currently has my email address, so I will receive this letter. So the campaign, where is my campaign? Recommended products. Let me find it first. Let's do by status. Status planned. Here it is. Now, I'm going to launch my campaign. You can also pre-schedule your campaign to launch and end at a specific time, which makes it quite easy if you have a promotion going on or any scheduled event that you want to invite people to and so on. So you don't have to do this manually. You can do this basically automatically. So let's refresh the page and see how our campaign starts to work. As you can see, my next scheduled run is in 15 minutes at 5:32 p.m. I already have one person that's added to the campaign, and they're on this step, recommended products. This is Alexander Wilson. So let's go into email section and check out this email template that I have added to my campaign. I have pre-configured this email prior to the session because it could take a while to do so. As you can see here, you can see all the replicas of this email. It can include a lot of different variations. So if a website development or Microsoft Office were recommended and preparing software documentation, then the customer will see this email. And we have a lot more options. So you can design your template. You'll design one template, but really you will have, how many do we have? I think about 15 different templates that we can potentially send to the customer. And it's all in one place. You don't have to create duplicates. It's all added once to the campaign again, which makes it quite easy to set up. In the audience tab, you will see who received this template. Here's Alexander Wilson, and you can see which replica Alexander will be receiving. So we have website development, Microsoft Office, preparing a software documentation. Now, let me double check. Do I have anything in my email? Not yet. Just making sure one more time. So Alexander is added. to the campaign. And he doesn't have the checkbox, do not use email. So the email should be coming in the next couple of minutes. Once that happens, I can click the link, a new lead will be created, and I can show you that from the previous campaigns that I have ran. So for example, this was for another contact need for our services. It was Bruce Clayton. So we have our contact name, mobile phone, contact record information. So you can see how this works. So in the previous campaign that already finished, which I had a little bit more time to execute, this is the lead that got created. Okay, so this was the first case that I wanted to show you that deals with automating business processes. Oh, and by the way, I actually do have this email. I can share it with you. This time it was a lot faster for the email to arrive. So here's for dear Alexander Wilson. As you can see, here's the content that he has received based on the products that we have that the model has recommended for him. And once I click the link, for example, here, I'm redirected to the CAT or community actually website, just because I don't have those products really to offer. But the system will track that, and later on when the campaign executes again, we'll create that lead. So at this point, while the campaign is still working, later on if we want to, we can return to it. But if you have any questions, please let me know and I will be happy to answer them. This was our first case. So the first question that I have is whether the same contact can enter the campaign twice. Yes, actually the contact can be entered in the campaign twice, only using the folder. As if you're adding contacts through the folder, then yes, you can set up so the contact re-enters the campaign after a certain period of time. And it's very applicable to this case, which with recommended products, obviously this is something that probably you will have as an ongoing campaign, and you want your customer to re-enter this campaign and to receive recommended product emails from time to time. And you can figure out the frequency in which you want to add this customer back to the campaign. So, okay. This was our first case, and let's go then to our second case, which is sales automation. In this case, we will build a case in our order section, which will help us work with processing orders. So case management, dynamic case management is applicable to those sections, to those records where you have a certain life cycle. So for example, here you can see that my order goes from status draft to confirmation, then in progress, and then to being completed or canceled, basically. So any record that where you have this type of a life cycle or a similar life cycle, you want to use dynamic case management. It's a little bit more flexible than using business processes, which are more linear. Dynamic case management allows you to basically go from stage to stage, and in those stages, you set up the steps that have to be completed. So let's take a look at how we can configure that case. Again, this is considered a low-code tool, dynamic cases, because it's drag and drop. It's quite easy to use. So what I will do now is go to sales, to order section. I'll show you how the section looks prior to any changes, and then what it will look like after we create this case. So this is my record before. And now I'm going to go into section wizard and set up my case. Okay, my case is based on column status. Basically, this is the column that has values for my stages. And you should always have a column that will include that data. This is what we're building our case on, based on. So let's click new case and create this case. while the system is opening my case designer, I'll go through basically the steps of what you need to do to set up the case from start to finish. First, we want to give it a name. Let's call it order processing case. And then first, I like to start with building my stages so I understand the flow in this case, so understand what goes after what. The first stage is going to be draft, then confirmation, then in progress, and then completed. And as an alternative to completed, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to use canceled, and I'm going to group it with completed, because it's not really a next possible stage after my order has been completed. That it should not go to canceled. It's an alternative stage. So we have our happy path and we have our alternative end of the life cycle for this record. So let's color code these stages as well, because right now they're all green, which is a little bit, I think, visually misleading, because once something is canceled, you expect it to be probably the color red. So this is what I'm going to do, color code my stages. Completed, I'm going to leave it green. In progress, let's do yellow. And draft is going to be gray. So you can set up additional logic in terms of how you want to transfer from stage to stage. You can, right now, I'm not going to do that. I want to be able to flexibly move around between different stages, but you can configure additionally what stage can be next possible stage and what stage can be previous stage. This way, your users will not be able to jump from stage to stage after the order has been canceled. They will not be able to change the stage to draft and go through the case again. So we can configure that as well in the system. Now, let's start building the steps that we can have, that we have to follow through before when we process our order. So first, I'm going to create a perform task, which is going to be add products to order. So this is the stages we will have if somebody creates an order manually in the system. If we receive the order from basically our site, then by default the stage is going to be confirmation. So we'll send a confirmation email to the customer, and we'll work from stage 2 forward from that point on. So, but in case we need to create an order that's going to be basically created manually, we can do so as well. So we can create a task. You can specify who performs this task. Let's make it a product owner. We can show it in the calendar, and we can show this page automatically. So this way, we are prompted to complete this task. Now, even though for this task, I'm saying that my user should add products, really the system is not really controlling whether the products were added. For that, I'm going to use a sub-process that I already have pre-built. And this sub-process will count the number of products. And if there are no products in this order, then it's not going to let it go to confirmation stage. So let's go ahead and do that. Check number of products. Check products in order. I'll show you how this process looks like. Here it is. It's a very, very simple process. It's just reads the order, counts number of products, and sends that data through a parameter back into the case. Now, here in the case, first I need to send the record ID to my process so it knows which record to use. I'm going to launch it after the previous step is completed. Once the person says that, yes, they have completed basically adding products to the order. And then we're going to set if the result is, if the number of products doesn't equal 0, then move to stage confirmation. And I'll show you that it doesn't allow you to do so if the number of products is 0. Now, on the confirmation stage, what I'm going to do next is send email, send confirmation email. I have synchronized email box to my demo site, so I'll be able, if I need to send those emails, and I can go into my contact and basically, 1 second, I can go to my contact, look up value, and send the email to the contact. Main record column, I need my contact email. Here it is. So the order, whoever is a contact in the order, email. What message to send? Template message. I already have this ready as well. Order confirmation. Macros is for contact. And I'll show you the little preview here. So this is what the customer will receive. Nothing fancy, but again, with a content designer, you can build a much more sophisticated email as well. And I can set it automatically. Now, next step, I'm gonna create one more step to check for things in the order. Maybe I want to approve of this order. Maybe I want to check whether I have things in stock. So I'm gonna open an added page to do so. Check order details before sending it to in progress stage, basically before creating a shipping label, packing up this order and shipping it to the customer. What this element allows me to do is open the order page and give my user some guidance of what needs to be checked on this page. So I'm going to open my order. It's going to be an existing record. Record ID is going to come from the case. It's going to be filled out by, let's not do the current user contact, but rather the owner of the order. So whoever is the owner will see this page. We can do check order for details, and we can specify what those details have to be. For example, maybe there is an installment plan that has to be configured before we can move on to the next page, next stage, or we can do something else. For now, for keeping things simple, I'm just going to say whenever the user clicks save, then we're going to move on to, we're going to consider this element as completed. So, and it's going to be not at the start of the page, but after the previous step is completed. So here on this stage, on the in progress stage, first I'm going to start by removing access permissions from people to added products. So we can no longer remove products from the order. And so the record stays the way that it was once it got to this stage. And we are preparing to ship our package, to ship our order to the customer. So you can also work with access permissions in the dynamic case management. So remove permission to added products. And I'm going to need to specify that it's products in product in order, where order equals main record ID. So, and I'm going to remove the permission to which access rights to remove, editing and deleting from all users, and that permission will only be granted to the owner of the record. So the owner will not be will be able to add it, but maybe not delete. We're going to perform it at the beginning of the stage. After that, we'll generate a shipping label. Again, I have a sub process for that as well. So you can set up a integration with different carriers, again, depending where your which country you're located in. You probably have your local carriers. You have some international companies like FedEx, DHL, UPS, and so on. So you can integrate with those. We have an add-on for FedEx on Creatio Marketplace. So you can use that add-on and it will help you synchronize your data and move the data from Creatio to FedEx and receive a shipping label from them back in Creatio, have your tracking number in the record. So there's an add-on that already exists for that. But for other carriers, you probably have to set up your integration yourself. So my process is called generate shipping a label. And I need to pass my order ID to this process, and then it's going to be performed after the previous step is completed. And once I'm done, I'm going to have one more task, which is basically ship the order. Again, depending on what, if you have a warehouse or if you're a smaller company, so the process here could be different. So I'm just going to create a little task that for my order owner that requires to actually pick up this box, package it, and put it out for the carrier to pick up. So the task is ship the order. It doesn't have to be shown in the calendar, show the page automatically, and it's going to be for the owner to perform. Then you can say that if it's completed, then move to stage completed. And on this stage, what I want to do is send out a confirmation, shipping confirmation email with a tracking number to my customer, so they have the most relevant information. They know that they should be expecting their package. So it's another email. Then contact, email. The message is a template message, shipping confirmation. Oh, I can do this, sorry. Contact. And here is my message. And again, I can send it automatically. For the cancel stage, I probably want to set up one more step to remove access permissions. So once the order, if somebody clicks the order is canceled, or the customer asks to cancel the order, we will no longer make any changes to that record. So we can preserve this record for our database. And then basically it's going to be it's going to stay the same. It's going to have all this data before we canceled the order. So change access permissions, remove permission to edit. This is going to be my order. And I need to specify which record. So where ID matches that. And I'm just going to remove permission to edit or actually edit and delete. And I'm going to leave the permission to read the record. So we can still read the record, but we cannot edit or delete it. Okay, so this is a very simple case. It has a couple of steps. Let's go ahead and save it and test everything out. Okay, my case has been successfully saved. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to refresh this page to make sure that all the changes are applied. And I'm going to create a new order manually for Alexander Wilson, which you already know that this contact has my email. So I'll be able to receive those messages for him. So as you can see, at the top of the page, I have my actions dashboard now. I need to pick my customer first. Alexander Wilson. Now I can click save, And once I save, the system will start to prompt me with things like that. For example, add products to order. As you remember, if I even click completed here, I will still not be allowed to go to the next step. Here's my order 2. Oh, no, it did. Interesting. I need to double check. But let's add the products to our order first, and then we can switch to a different stage. So what I'm going to do now, pick some products for this order so it's not completely empty. Let's go to the catalog, products, software. Let's say, well, this is licenses. Let's do hardware though. 2 laptops. Because it's something, licenses we don't have to ship. And so now we have 2 products here. Now I can click complete. Now we're on confirmation right away. Let's go to check order details page. Again, we were not super strict here. We're not telling what needs to be done, but you can send this order for approval. You can do an invoice. You can do a contract based on this order before basically shipping this out. For now, let's click save. And let's move this to in progress stage. Here, I have my task to ship the order. The only thing I should be here is first I need to enter shipping information. This is something that did not pop up first, but this is my shipping card. So information for Alexander Wilson. Perhaps I don't have enough information in the database for Alexander. I only have the phone number, but I don't have his city. I need to double check. But I can fill out this. If the information is missing, I try to configure my page in the way that if I have that information in the record, for example, for the supervisor or for Alexander Wilson, then this information will pop up here. But if it's not, I can fill it out manually. And then I can do my package information. I can choose my carrier, service type, package type, and so on. And I can enter, for example, the information about my package width. Let's say that my package is 10 inches by, well, it's a smaller laptop. Let's say 30 by 60 inches by 10 inches. The weight will be about 5 pounds, and it's going to be 1 package. This is all will be stored in the delivery tab here in the shipping card for this order, and then I can complete and ship this order. And once I do that, the order has been completed. Let me double check if I received those emails. Maybe they're still coming. Again, I can do this. Do I have anything in outgoing? Okay, not yet. But here's how you can automate your order processing using Sales Creatio and Dynamic Case Management. Again, you can add a lot more different steps. You can go from stage to stage. You can set up more stricter rules for transferring between the steps, for what your expectation regarding completing each of these steps. If the result is one thing, you can set up that you can transfer to a different stage. If the result is B, for example, first one was A and this one is B, then you can switch to a different stage and so on. So we have a lot of flexibility in terms of working with orders. And with dynamic case management, as I mentioned before, what you're able to do is switch. You can go back to stage, for example, if you realize that on in progress stage that you're missing some information, you can transfer back to confirmation and try to resolve those issues. And again, if the order got canceled at one point, if it's still in progress, if it's still being completed but hasn't shipped yet, you can cancel it as well. So now let's do a quick Q&A session. If you have any questions for this portion, for this case that I've shown you, if you have any questions about dynamic case management, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Send them to the chat. Okay, so I do have a question regarding the email templates. It's not for dynamic case management, but it's part of the dynamic case management. So for those templates, what do we need to do if we have if we're working with multiple languages, and if our website is working with multiple languages? How can we arrange that the templates will be also in multiple languages? Actually, Creatio supports that feature, and let me quickly show you in the system how it determines which template the user will see in which language. So I'm going to switch back to demonstration here. In the contact record, there is a field here, preferred language. And when you build your templates, you build it in a specific language. So you determine that the language in that template is going to be English, Spanish, German, French, or any other language that you need to use. And then when you work with those templates, when they get sent out, the system checks whether a preferred language, what's the preferred language for the contact. If you have a template in that language, then basically what the system will do is pick the appropriate language for the customer. So if Alexander Wilson had some other language, maybe French, or German, and we had a template in that language, he will receive that template, the message in that template. If this information is not filled out for the contact, let's say it's empty, then the system uses a system setting to determine which language to choose. So by default, you can set up that maybe English is your default language if you do not know your customer preference in terms of languages. But once you find out, you can correct that information here in the CRM. And then later on, when you communicate with a particular contact, you can always send all those system messages in the correct, inappropriate language for that customer. And let me quickly show you where that is configured as well. So I'm going to go to lookups, email templates. Here are my templates. Here's order confirmation. And when I set up, here's my language, and I can do more languages. So for example, if I want to do French, I can pick, I can also do a more localized, so it can be French as in French or Canadian French. So, and then I can update this text to fit this language. So once I click save, if I have a preferred language that's French, this is what the customer will receive. Okay, so let's go to another case. And the next case that we are going to take a look at is our case for automating queues, for working with queues in Service Creatio. And it's a two-part case, similar to marketing. First, we need to build the business process to work with queues, and then we need to populate our queue, and then process those records based on the queue. So we have our business process in which we're going to be basically opening the page, calling the customer, then entering their feedback, and then based on their feedback, we'll have two flows. If the feedback is positive, if we're happy with it, we're gonna terminate the process. We're done with processing this contact. And if they left us a bad review, they were not happy with our services, then we'll create a case so our support team can resolve any issues that the customer has with our company. I mean, in a lot of places, it's still, I mean, you have emails, you can ask your customers for review that way, but in certain industries, a personal touch, a personal phone call still makes a huge difference. For example, I mean, the industry that's probably suffered a lot this year is travel industry, where if you're ordering a packaged tour somewhere, you really want to stay in touch with your travel agent. You want the travel agent to arrange everything. And so it's important for the travel agent to understand what type of experience you had. So hopefully next year or whenever things get a little bit back to normal and we can travel again, we will be able to utilize a process like that. We can travel more and travel agencies will benefit from a similar process. Okay, so let's build our business process first, and then we will populate our queues and see what the agent sees. Let's go to the live demo. Okay, let me close these additional tabs. And we'll quickly show you what an agent desktop is in Service Creatio if you're not familiar with it yet. So agent desktop is a section which allows you to process, well, by default, cases. Out of the box, we have pre-configured processes for cases and orders, but really you can process any object that you have in the system that you want your agents to handle, that you have maybe in bulk and that requires processing. To do that, you need to build a process that will be used by the agent desktop, by the queue. And then based on that process, the agent will be guided through different steps and completing those steps to work with the record. Also here you have your social, you have your feed basically where agents can exchange messages. You can set up different KPIs for your agents in terms of processing cases, orders, or what we're going to be working on today, it's going to be contacts. So let's go ahead and start building our process that we can use for this queue. Because before we can configure the queue, we need to build this process. Right now, I don't have a process in the system that would work for that. I'm going to go into my process library, and I'm going to click New Processes. Now, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Process Customer Feedback. And what I need to do for this to work with queues, I need to set up two parameters. Both of them are ID parameters, and one is queue item ID, and another one is selected record ID. And click Save. So these parameters will be used by the system to know how to work with this process to populate the queues in the agent desktop. After that, I can start building my business process. Since this business process is launched by our agent desktop, I'm fine with a simple start event. So in a similar way, the way I have it in sub processes, I can start with a simple start event whenever something else will be launching my process. After the process is launched, what I want to do is read data. I want to read my contact data. So later on, I can use that contact data in the process for different formulas or pre-filling some of the fields that I might require later on. So let's go ahead and call it read contact. Which object I'm going to read is going to be contact. And I need to specify how to filter my contacts. It's going to be ID equals selected record ID. So this way I know which record to read, the one that was selected for the queue, and the ID gets passed into that parameter. Now, the next thing that I will do is prompt my user to call the customer, and to do that, I'm going to open a contact edit page so they will see the contact data in front of them. There is a little button on the contact page in the communication details where you can just click on it and make a phone call right away if you have integration with any phone services. So I'm going to open edit page. Let's call it call customer. And which page to open? This is going to be my contact. It's going to be an existing record because the contact already exists in our system. And the record ID will come again from the process parameter selected record ID. Now, I can provide my user with a hint of basically what needs to be done here. So for example, call customer and gather feedback. And I can do a hint as well. And I'll show you what the difference is. Now, after we call the customer, after we initiate the phone call, we need to start interviewing the customer. So to do that, I'm going to first create a record for the new interview. For this purpose, for gathering feedback, I've also downloaded an add-on from Marketplace, which features questionnaires, which allows you to work with questionnaires and interviews. And this way I can automate my feedback gathering using that functionality. You can build that separately in the system, but I just found that the package that we had available on the Marketplace was pretty good and I liked how it was set up, so I used it for this demo. But it works in a specific way. First, I need to create the record of the interview, and then once the record is created, I can basically launch the interview process and open that edit page. So first, I'm going to add new interview. And here, what I want to do when I create a new interview, I'm going to add one record and I'm going to pre-fill some of these fields. So account, contact, questionnaire, questionnaire type, and yeah, that's it. For account and contact, I'm going to use the data that I have from my read contact element. So I'm going to go to my process parameters and I'm going to select read contact account. For contact, I'm going to use my select a record ID. And for my questionnaire, I'm going to do lookup value. I'm going to pre-fill it with a lookup value. It's going to be a feedback questionnaire, questionnaire type. Oh, I also need to do a lookup feedback. You can have multiple questionnaires and with a lot of questions, and you can just, and I'll show you how you can set up different responses, answers that are available. So I think it's actually, it's a really great extension that's available on the Marketplace. So I think it's going to be interesting how we can use it. Now, we have our add interview, and then we can move to the next. And this is going to be open that interview page where we can record the answers. So I'm going to go here again. I'm going to open added page. I'm going to call it enter answers to a questionnaire. Which page to open? This is going to be my interview. existing record. And this is going to be the record here, created record ID, the one that we created in the previous step. Who fills it out? Current user? Yes, the one that was working with the call customer. So this is the person that will see this page open up. I'm fine with this setting. And I can do recommendations. I can copy this text, for example, enter answers to a questionnaire, and I can save a condition that if my record matches a certain condition, then only after that it's going to be considered done. And for me, there's a field called satisfaction level that I really need to determine whether my customer is happy or not. So I need to require this field to be filled before going forward. So enter answers to a questionnaire and enter satisfaction level. Because this data is really important for us for this process to understand how happy the customer is. And the satisfaction level, let's say, is filled in. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. We just want to have some value, some data in that field. Now, the next thing that I'll have is my read interview element, because next I'll need to split my process into two flows, basically into my happy path and into my alternative path. So in order to do that, I'm going to use this read data element, and I'm going to read basically my interview. So read interview, the ID of the interview matches the one from the add new interview. And we're just going to read all fields. And at this point, I'm going to split my flow into two. I'm going to use exclusive getaway to have my happy path and to have my alternative path. My happy path is going to be as follows. It's going to be called positive feedback. And I'm going to read my interview and say that if my satisfaction level here equals excellent, or if my satisfaction level equals good, then I'm okay. I can terminate the process. Nothing else needs to be done. But in other case, if my feedback is not positive, I need to create a case for my support team to process to figure out how we can assist the customer and provide them with the experience that they are looking for to stay, and so they can return to us for future services or for future products. So I'm going to use, again, add data element to add a new case. This is going to be my alternative default flow. So I'm going to use a default flow. Basically, in any other case, so if it's not good or excellent, go here through the default flow. And let's add new case. What object to use? Case. Add one record, and I'm going to pre-fill this record with certain values. So when the agent gets it, they understand basically where we're coming from. So account, contact information, you can do feedback notes, but right now this is not really synchronized well with interview. We can think about how that can be done. Let's go to satisfaction. Where's my satisfaction level? Here. And subject, basically, I'm gonna preset the subject for this type of case. Account will be coming from read contact. Again, contact will be coming from the process parameter. then satisfaction level will be coming from the read interview. And the subject, I'm gonna just enter manually, but again, you can use formulas and some additional maybe questionnaire answers to populate this. So I'm just gonna call it my case as customer not happy with our services based on feedback. And after this case gets created, I can terminate my process. Now this becomes something that my support team processes. Let's save. And let's go and set up our queue. So I'm gonna go to queues, new queue. I'm gonna call it gather customer feedback. Queue type determines basically the object that we are processing. Right now you can see 4 objects. Again, we are not limited to these 4 objects. You can add additional objects for queues to process. That can be done in the queue setup. So we are not limited by these 4 in any way. So let's select contact and find our process customer feedback. Now, first things first, before I forget, I need to always determine what my team is, people who will be processing. If I want myself to see this queue, for example, right now, I need to make sure that my contact, the one that I'm using in the system, is part of the agents, is one of the agents that's processing this queue. Otherwise, even with the system administrator permissions, I will not be able to see that data. I will not be able to see that information. Record entity. Okay. Interesting. Let me make some changes. For some reason, I'm not liking this. I wonder why. Let me double check. Okay, I can use a slightly different process, which I believe already works. So for some reason, I'm having trouble with this. Okay, I replaced the process. It's the same process. Something is going on weird with my parameters today, but with this one, it's literally the same process. So, and my user is supervisor. Here it is. And now I can set up my queue population. The queue is going to be populated automatically. I can set up the conditions. Let's say that contacts that have orders in the system, that's the contacts that we will see here in this queue. And I can go into in progress right away, so I can see what I can see this queue in my agent desktop. So I'm going to click fill queues, and I can go to my agent desktop. Here is, as you can see now, I have contacts as an object appearing at the top, and I have a list of contacts that I can process based on the filter parameters I've entered in my queue. So let's go ahead and process these contacts. So I'm going to click open. Here's my Alexander Wilson. Here's my call customer page. In the communication panel, again, if I had a phone telephony installed or basically integrated, I could call right away from Creatio. Right now, I don't know any Alexanders, so I'm not going to be making a phone call, but let's pretend I did. And I'm on the phone with Alexander. I'm going to click save here. And here is my questionnaire. So Alpha Business, for some reason, Alexander's name is not coming up. Okay, Alexander. So I'm gonna just enter it manually here. And now that I have my questionnaire here, I can start the interview. here are a couple of questions that I'm asking Alexander. Maybe, are you satisfied with services provided? Yes, no, maybe. Would you recommend our products or services to a friend? So let's say that Alexander is an unhappy customer because we want to go through this alternative flow, which has a case creation in it. So are you satisfied? No. Would you recommend us? No. He's very unhappy. So, but we need to make sure that Alexander is happy. So that's why we're gathering this feedback. Would you use our services again? Maybe. What are the areas that could use improvement? We can do some text. We can say that need better service and complete the interview. So now I can enter the satisfaction level. I'm going to say poor, and I'm going to click save here. Alexander leaves this queue. He's no longer part of our contact processing queue. But if we go to cases, and if we look for a case, so we can do customer for today, customer unsatisfied with our services. Here we will find that a case has been created for Alexander Wilson. We have some case information regarding that, and we can now process this case and hopefully will improve, and Alexander will leave us as a positive feedback. So it's time for questions and answers for Q&A session. Let me know if you have any questions regarding the case that I have shown to you. Let me quickly check if I have any incoming questions. Okay, second, I think I have some. Okay, so does queue functionality allow to manage the agent workload? Yeah, as you've seen, I, as an agent, received a lot of new cases, and basically we're expecting that when working with queues, you have multiple agents processing them, but as a supervisor, you can also see what's the workload for each of the agents, and depending on the queues that they are working with, and then you can manage that workload. You can reassign cases, contacts, or basically those records that they need to process to other agents. If you see that some of them are falling behind, or maybe it takes them a little bit longer to work with, maybe they're stuck, they're talking a lot longer to the customer. So you can reassign the record, the next record, to another agent. You can also be involved yourself as a supervisor. You can take away some of the cases, orders, or contacts that the agent is processing, and as a supervisor, step in and work on those. So yeah, Service Creatio does allow that with the queue functionality. Okay, let's go to the last but not least, our last case. So far in the first three cases, we have focused on basically somewhat of external processes automation. Now let's focus on our internal processes, working with some of things that I think most companies deal with, HR, and basically bringing on board a new employee. So I'll quickly show you a process that can help you automate that, basically, and streamline your onboarding process. We will go from beginning when we have hired a new employee, and then we can basically go create some tasks for users to process. We can have our daily performance reviews that will require us to review how our employee is doing, and schedule then an exam. Based on the exam results, we can either hire permanently this new employee, or maybe try to find them a different position within the company, or let them go. So let's build this process. let's go to the live demo. Okay, I'm going to leave this page, and I'm going to go to my process designer, and I'm going to show you how to build a process that will be triggered by something happening in the system. So far, we've been working with processes that were triggered by either a case or our agent desktop, basically our queues. This next one that I'm going to show you is going to be triggered by a signal within the system. So anytime we enter a new employee, a new process will, this process will initiate. So I'm going to create a new process. I'm going to call it onboarding process. And it's going to start with the signal. When the process receives this particular signal, it will trigger the process. So we'll give it a name, new employee hired, object employee, record added. So just as long as we add a new record, this is the basically this is what we want to trigger the process. Now, the next thing that we will do in the process is read this record, read the contact record, read the manager, and read the manager's contact. This way, again, later on in our tasks, we will be able to pull this data for our formulas. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to read my employee so I can have access to a little bit more than the record ID. Read employee. And this is going to be the employee that triggered the process to start. Now I'm going to read the contact for that employee. Read employee contact, which record where contact ID equals contact. Now, next, I'm going to read my manager, read employee's manager. And the manager is also first an employee record. And here, to understand why I'm reading multiple objects here, you need to understand the object structure, how each object is related to each other. So we start dealing with contacts, and then from contacts we create employees, and our employee can be a manager for other employees. So that's why I'm reading multiple objects. So employee, where ID matches, read employee, manager. So, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to read my manager's contact. So this time I'm going to read the record contact, where ID matches my read employees manager contact. So now that I've done that, this is a little technical part, but it will come in handy later on. I can start setting up tasks that I want to accomplish in this process. First task that I will have is my perform task. It's going to be gather employee information. So before starting, I need to make sure I have enough information within the system. I have maybe employee's birthday, their previous employment records, cell phone number, things like that. Gather employee information. Oh, sorry, spelling mistake. Information. What should be done? And we can actually do a formula. So for example, we can gather employee information for plus, and we're going to be reading their full name, so we know who we're trying to, whose information we're trying to gather. We can start this task right away. If you want to, you can show it in the calendar, but let's prompt the page to start automatically. Again, for demonstration purposes, I think it works a lot better versus us trying to find this record. And it's going to be who performs this task. It's going to be our employee's owner. So we'll assume that the HR department is somebody in the HR department is the owner of that record. I'm going to also connect my contact, employee's contact, employee's account to this record. So later on, it's easier for me to track things. Now, here, depending on my results, I will have two flows. If I have gathered information, okay, I'm going to proceed. This is my happy path. If I have not received the information, maybe the employee changed his mind, his or her mind, and decided not to show up, then basically I'll have an alternative stage. So let's first set up our happy path, and then we will move on to alternative. So my flow is going to be conditional, and the condition is information received. Now I'm going to open add information to employee contact record, and what to open, contact, existing record, and this is going to be my employee's read employee contact record. Actually, let me do it slightly differently. I'm going to use this contact ID. Okay. Now, who fills it out? Current user contact. Let's say that it has to be our HR, so our owner. I can provide a recommendation, and again, I can specify what the information needs to be ordered in order to be considered as completed. For now, let's keep it this way. Now, I'm going to create an alternative path right away here. And let's say that if this is canceled, then we're going to open specify due date and reasons for job change. So we're terminating that employee, for example. And this is going to be the employee record, existing record. Record ID is coming from our identifier. Here I'm going to set up this recommendation, and here I'm going to set up my reasons for job change is filled, and due date is filled as well. And after that, we will terminate this process. Let's continue with the happy path. After that, we can create a couple of tasks. Maybe there are some, they are created in parallel to, for example, conduct a meeting, create a contract, and so on. To do that, to be able to split our flow into parallel flows, we'll need to use a getaway, but change it to a parallel getaway and set it up as so. Let's call it conduct an introduction meeting. Again, who performs this task? Probably the manager of the employee. So the manager's contact, and the contact is going to be our employee's contact. And here we can, for example, do a task, prepare an employment contract. Okay. And again, show page automatically. Who performs? This time it's going to be the owner of the employee, the HR. And again, I'm going to try to mention in my activity who we're dealing with, so the contact for our employee. And if we want these tasks to, if we want the process to proceed only if both of them are completed, then what I want to do is set up a parallel getaway after these elements. So now, after that, I will go to a sub process that will allow me to add daily performance reviews. And to do that, I'm going to use this sub process element. I already have the sub process pre-built. This is my daily performance reviews. And I need to send my employee ID to this process. So here it is. And I'll quickly show you this sub process, how it looks like. In this sub process, we are creating a task for the manager to conduct a daily performance review. Then we enter the results. Those results get stored in the employee's record. And then if the probation ends today, then we terminate the process. If the probation date is not today, then we circle through and do these daily reviews until we get to the end of the probation period. You can set up a different logic, maybe depending on what your company process is for onboarding or for training new employees. But this is the one that I'm trying to keep mine simple. So I have my probation period. The exam is after the probation. So I need this date to terminate then the process. Okay, have my sub process. After that, I can do another activity, maybe to schedule a exam, and I can also enter the information about the exam. Let's say that the exam is conducted. I'll have my auto-generated page where I can enter exam results. Button save. So once we are finished filling out this page, we can save this, and then we will have our two fields. First is going to be our lookup. Basically, I'm going to reuse the satisfaction level lookup to grade my employee. We're going to call it exam score, and data source is satisfaction level, view drop down list. And then we're going to have a little comment field so we can add additional information regarding how the employee passed the exam. After that, I'm going to prompt my user with a question, whether or not the employee has passed the exam. And depending on the answer, we can choose one option, and the option is going to be yes, yes, and no. Now we will split again our process. If yes, and we're going to switch to conditional flow. Oh, sorry, no, yes, we'll terminate. If the answer is no, then basically we can conduct a kind of like a last performance review for the employee. Last performance review. It's going to be done by the manager. For the employee. And basically, we need to, I'm going to copy this element, specify due date and reasons for a job change. So we're going to go here. Oh. Specify that, and we will say goodbye to the employee, or we'll switch them and try them in a different department. So, okay, so this is my process. I'm going to click save, and we will test out, we'll run this process and see how it works. We'll go through happy case scenario, and we can go through basically an alternative one as well. So this is my onboarding process. and let's take a closer look at it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my section, into employee section, and create a new employee. I'm going to pick one of the contacts. Let's do Jane. For example, she'll be a customer manager. The manager for Jane will be, well, supervisor. This is my user. So this way I can show you what I will see if I were a manager for this new employee. Here's Jane. I'm also, by default, I'm the owner, so I'm kind of like serving two roles today as an HR and basically as a manager. And as you can see, I'm starting to see this tasks that are popping up, gather employee information. And it's also available here in my actions dashboard. So I can go and say I can complete information received. Let's go through the happy path first. And if we have time, we'll go through the unhappy path. Now, the page has opened, my edit page, add information to employee contact record. As you can see, I don't have that much information here, so I can add at least maybe like an email. I can add some communication options. I can get a mobile phone, +1 782, something random. So here's my phone number. I can then fill out the additional information about the job history for this contact and so on. We haven't specified really what information needs to be here. So at this point, we can go ahead and click save. Now I have my conduct an introduction meeting, and I have my prepare employment contract. So these two activities have been created based on my process flow. Here's Jane mentioned here. I can say that, okay, this is completed. As you can see, I still have this task and I'm not moving to my daily reviews yet. And the daily reviews will be added here to this little tab in the career. So I have my current career as a customer manager, and later on I'll add the probation period date so we can terminate our cycle. So, but first, let's finish this activity. Click save. Daily performance review with Jane Lawson. Again, I can complete it. Here I'll have my review comment, so I can, and by the way, I can log that objects and make it uneditable besides through the business process, and this way preserve basically my data, making sure that only through the process my manager can add information to that review. So you can control that as well. Let's add a review comment, for example. Jane is learning really fast. Click save. Again, as you can see, I'm on my second daily performance review, and let me quickly show you what I see here. Here I need to find Jane, where she is. Where is she? Jane, here it is. Here's her record. In the career, here is my current date, review comment, and who was the reviewer. Again, right now I can enter this information manually as well, but you can lock this and make this uneditable unless you do this through the process. So you can change the access permissions to make sure nobody adds any fake performance reviews into the record, and only through the process. And the process will only show that page to the manager. So we can be quite strict with this data. Okay, I'm gonna click close. Let me add my probation date. So to this record. So we will not go in this cycle too many times. You've already seen how it works. So probation day is today. Let's fill out one more review. We'll complete it. Okay, and let's say Jane has mastered the material, something. Save. Now, as you can see, the next step that I have, since I have my exam, this is my enter exam results, and here I can select from my lookup, excellent, poor, good, neutral, or extremely poor. So let's say that Jane is doing really well. Again, for this demonstration, I'm going to go through the happy path, and then I'll show you the alternative one. So let's say excellent, and we can say Jane is doing really well. And then I have my question, the one that I prompted in my process, whether Jane has passed the exam. I don't really, I can pass, I can have this question, and I can also use the data from my lookup based on what I've entered in that exam score. So pick and choose which you think works better. I think right now, because the answer neutral doesn't really give me much. In certain cases, maybe neutral is okay and we can still hire the employee. Maybe in other cases, it's not good enough and you only want those who perform as good or even excellent. You don't want anybody who is good. You just want excellent top players for certain positions. So here I can make a determination whether the exam for this particular position was passed. And let's say yes. And this terminates our process. Now, let's quickly, we have a couple minutes left. We can go through the unhappy path for this process, and I'll just show you basically an alternative to that. So I'm going to pick a different contact and create a new contact. So let's say Grace. Again, will make myself as a manager. Grace will be a specialist. And again, I have my activity, gather employee information. Let's say we will go through the unhappy path that's at the end where Grace does not pass her exam. So I'm going to, information received, yes. Again, Grace's record is very well filled, so I don't need to enter anything else. I'm fine with that. Here, I'm going to complete both of my introduction meeting and my employment contract. And here are my daily performance reviews with Grace. So let me open this in a separate link. Actually, it's going to open the contact record, and then I need my employee record. And I'm going to set up for Grace a end of the probation period. So career, here is this record. Okay, it's going to end today, so we're not going to cycle through this multiple times. We already seen how it works. Completed, completed, and let's say not well, or something like that. We can obviously put a more thorough comment in a real life scenario. Now we are prompted to the exam results, and let's say poor. Grace is not ready to work for this position, for example. And I'm going to say exam is not passed. Okay, so conduct last performance review with Grace, and once I complete this, I'll have my specified due date and reasons for job change. And I need to do that, basically reasons here, my job change, due date. And if I click save here, this will not go away. That's something I wanted to show you, is basically I will need to fill out those fields, both of those fields. unable to cope with duties, due date, and maybe in a week, basically, Grace will leave the company. So, and only if those two are filled out, then the task will go away and my process terminates. So this was the last case that I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, let me know about this case or about any other cases that you have seen during this workshop. Let me take a quick look at the chat. Do we have any questions at this moment? Okay. There's a question about just general HR department, how it can be automated, because yeah, this is the process that you've seen. The last case was based on more of HR processes. To automate your HR processes, you probably need more than one process. You probably would require to build out more sections. For example, if you're hiring a lot of people, to streamline your hiring process, because managing, and you can do some additional things in terms of reviewing your current employees. For hiring, for recruitment, we actually have a really good add-on on the marketplace. So if you are looking, if you're trying to understand where you want to start with, using basically Creatio as your platform, then you can go on the marketplace, and I think that add-on is called recruitment, and you can use it. You can, it's a free add-on. You can integrate it into your application, and it will allow you to work with your applicants, to hire more people, to streamline that process, and then you can think about what processes you have internally with existing employees. It's a really big question. It probably will require, it can require a whole additional workshop training if we want to think about what can be done. But you can add more objects into your employee section. For example, if you want to keep track of performance of your current employees, of their record, their feedback, their manager's feedback and reviews yearly or quarterly or half a year review, depending what your processes are. So you can add additional things like that to your employees section and make it really your own. All the sections that you see in Creatio can be modified, and you can use that as a base and then change it to fit your needs. Okay, so do we have any other questions? Today we looked at 4 quite interesting cases. We started with marketing, which allows us to get new leads, to work with, to nurture our customer base. Then we looked at how to process orders that we already have coming in with existing customers, or maybe with new ones as well. So marketing generates new customers, new orders for us. Then we process those orders, and then later with service, we took a look at how we can work with customer feedback to make sure that the customer is satisfied with our services and our products. Again, this will help us to retain those customers. And so, and the last case was more of an internal one. If we don't have any other questions, then I would like to thank everybody for watching, for joining me today for our workshop, and hopefully maybe I'll see you for some other trainings that we're doing in Creatio. Thank you.